Hi, everyone. All right, big finale. Are you ready to see how this book ends? Book number 32, To the Future, Ben Franklin. Here we go. Chapter 9 is called A Good Idea. Ben, wait for us, yelled Annie. Jack and Annie hurried into the woods after Ben Franklin. They found him huddled beneath a tree. That was an airplane, said Jack. It won't hurt you. It's not going to fall out of the sky. But why not? Asked Ben. Jack only half remembered about how planes flew. Well, it has an engine that pushes it forward, he said, and the air under the wings helps it lift it up. It all works together somehow, said Annie. Oh my, said Ben. Does your world have many airplanes? Oh, thousands, said Annie. Huge ones called jets. And rockets, said Jack. Some rockets can go all the way to the moon. Impossible, said Ben. I can see why that might seem impossible, but these are everyday things to us, said Annie. We don't even think about them, said Jack. Your world does not seem real to me, said Ben. The trees and grass and squirrels are real, but not lines that carry electricity and rockets that go to the moon. Ugh. He wiped his face with his handkerchief. Whew, I fear there is no place for me here. I am a plain and simple man. No, you're not. You're a genius, said Annie. Oh, not here, my dear, Ben said. My little inventions and experiments are nothing compared to carriages that roar and machines that fly. Oh, I believe it's time for me to go home. Wait, have you made a decision about what you're going to do, said Jack? I mean, about citing the Constitution? No, but it doesn't matter if I sign it or not, said Ben. We delegates think our ideas are so very important, but now I see they matter little in your world. No, that's not true at all, said Annie. They matter a lot. Ben smiled sadly. Children, please. Lead me to your treehouse, he said. But, said Annie. Please, said Ben. I want to go home. Jack looked at Annie. She nodded. Okay, said Jack. Follow us, said Annie gently. She and Jack started leading Ben back through the Frog Creek woods. Morgan was wrong, Annie whispered to Jack. She said our everyday wonders would show Ben the way. I know, but they only confused him, said Jack. Jack felt terrible. Not only had they failed to change Ben's mind about signing the Constitution, they'd also upset one of the world's greatest heroes. By the time they reached the treehouse, Ben looked pale and weary. I apologize for being such a bad guest, he said. You don't have to apologize, said Jack. We apologize. No, you've only been kind, said Ben. Wait, Ben, said Annie. Before you go, there's something else you really, really should see. What? Jack whispered to her. Trust me, whispered Annie. Then she turned to Ben. I promise that you'll like this. It's really great. Ben sighed. All right, lead me there, he said. This way, said Annie. Jack and Annie followed Ben through the woods to the sidewalk. As they headed up the street, the air felt hotter and more humid than ever. Is this place far away? Ben asked. No, it's just ahead, said Annie. Do you see that building? She pointed to a brick building with tall paned windows. Oh man, whispered Jack. Brilliant. Annie was taking Ben to the Frog Creek Library. Don't worry if people stare at you, said Ben. We'll tell them that you're in rehearsals for a play and you're still wearing your costume. Ben looked puzzled, but just nodded and followed Annie and Jack up the library steps. Jack opened the front door and they all stepped inside. Ben took a deep breath. Oh, this cool air in this room is delightful. Another invention? It is, said Jack. Jack never really thought much about air conditioning, but today it was definitely delightful. What a wonderful room, said Ben. The library walls were lined with bookshelves. People of all ages and all colors sat in armchairs reading books, magazines, and newspapers. Some were working at computers. Do you see what you started in Philadelphia? Annie said. Now we have free public libraries all over America, thousands of them. They make a difference to all kinds of people. The librarian looked up from her desk. Jack and Annie, she said. Hi. Hi, Sandy, they said. Oh, you brought Ben Franklin. What's going on? Oh, we're in rehearsals for a play, said Jack. We needed to look things up, said Annie, to help our friend play his part. Oh, please, go ahead, said the librarian. What play? Ben whispered. We'll show you, said Annie. She led Ben to a bulletin board announcing community events. Jen pointed to a small theater poster. See? Ben Franklin in Paris. You're famous in history. Actors have played you in musicals, movies, and TV shows. Movies? TV? What's that? Said Ben. Well, that's hard to explain, said Annie. But your face is on our $100 bill, said Jack. No way, said Ben. Yes, said Jack and Annie together. And there they are, showing Ben the library. My goodness, said Ben, that's wonderful. Ben studied the other notices on the bulletin board. They announced church meetings, yard sales, bake sales, a fire station picnic, a 4th of July parade. Open to all, Ben read at the top of the bulletin board. Then he looked around at the library. This place is open to all too, isn't it? You have a wonderful community here, I can tell. There are lots of libraries and communities like this everywhere, said Annie. And so many children are reading, said Ben. Where do they all learn to read? America has free schools for everyone, said Annie, no matter how poor you are or where you come from. And girls get the same education as boys. At least 12 years of school for everyone, said Jack. Ben's eyes grew teary. Wow, I would have liked that, he said. There was so much I wanted to learn. Well, wait till you see this, said Annie. She led Ben to a table. Please sit down. What is this machine? This machine is a computer, said Jack. So they're showing Ben Franklin a computer. Oh, and that takes us to chapter 10, called We the People. A computer, said Ben. He stared at the large desktop machine. Yes, that's right, said Annie. It's useful for learning all about the world. Lots of people even carry small computers in their pockets on smartphones. Phones, asked Ben. What are phones? Oh, those are hard to explain. Let's look at the computer now, said Jack. Jack and Annie grabbed chairs and sat next to Ben. Watch, said Jack. He tapped a key and the screen lit up, and Ben gasped. Oh! Wait, said Jack. He did a search for United States of America, and then he clicked on an entry. A map of the United States and the country's great seal appeared on the screen. Oh, how did that happen? Where did that come from? Ben asked. Well, that's hard to explain too, said Annie, but read what it says. So Ben read aloud softly from the screen. The United States is a country of 50 states, stretching from the Atlantic to the Pacific Oceans. It covers a vast part of North America. It has a population of more than 325 million people. Since its founding, immigrants from all over the globe have moved to the United States and become citizens. My goodness, whispered Ben. Jack pointed to the Great Seal of the United States at the top of the screen. That's a symbol for our country, he said. Oh, I know that symbol, said Ben. In 1776, I was on a committee to create it. He read the writing on the seal. E pluribus unum. That's Latin for one of many, or out of many, one. Right. Out of many, one, said Annie. Our teacher told us what that means. The United States is made up of many different states and people from all over the world, but we are all under one nation. Yes, yes, said Ben. I wonder if our delegates have forgotten those words. Probably, said Annie. People forget them in our time, too. It's so important that we come together as a country, said Ben. But how can we do that? We are very divided. Maybe the different sides have to keep talking to each other and listening to each other and agree to go forward, said Annie. She's right, said Jack. Don't forget, you can add important stuff later. They'll be called amendments, like amendments that guarantee freedom of speech and freedom of religion and give women the right to vote, said Annie, and to end slavery and give everyone equal rights, said Jack. Yes, that makes sense, said Ben. Perhaps creating a constitution is only the first step, not the last step. Exactly, said Jack. Ben stood up. I must go now. I must go home. I must be back for the afternoon session. This constitution is very important. They need me to be there, and you need me to be there. We do, said Annie. So Ben hobbled across the library, heading for the door. Goodbye, Ben, Sandy, the librarian, called. Have a good show. Readers looked up from their books and stared as Ben Franklin hurried outside. Jack and Annie caught up with Ben in front of the library, and the three of them walked quickly to the sidewalk. My world may seem very rough and simple compared to yours, Ben said breathlessly, but 'tis filled with the discovery of new things and new ideas. Why, I can even help create a constitution that will change the history of the world. You can, said Annie. Of course, there are parts that I absolutely do not agree with, said Ben. But additions, as you said, and changes, amendments can be made later. But first we have to create one country. We may never get another chance. That's true, said Jack. This way, said Annie. She and Jack led Ben into the woods. And in spite of the heat, Ben moved quickly between the trees. Here we are, Jack said when they reached the oak tree. Jack and Annie held the ladder steady, and Ben tucked his walking stick under his arm and climbed up slowly. Once Ben was inside the treehouse, Jack grabbed the ladder to follow him, but then he heard Ben say, Hello, my good lady. The sound of a woman's voice came from the treehouse. Jack froze at the bottom of the ladder. Jack, it's her, said Annie. I know, said Jack, and they looked up. Morgan, they cried. Morgan Le Fay and Ben Franklin stood at the treehouse window together. Hello, Jack. Hello, Annie, Morgan called. Congratulations, you successfully carried out my wishes on your last 4 adventures. You learned a great lesson from Jackie Robinson. You worked with Mother Mary Joseph in Texas. You spent time with Emperor Marcus Aurelius of Rome. And you have just given me one of the most remarkable adventures of my life, said Ben. You have showed me the wonders of your world. All people here, men, women, black, white, young, old, everyone should be treated equally. This country is full of different communities and different people, and yet we're all one country. Yes, said Jack. Please, Jack and Annie, never take all the wondrous things of your world for granted, said Ben. Promise me you will always be filled with curiosity and wonder. Oh, we promise, said Jack and Annie. Thank you for everything, said Ben. Farewell, called Morgan. A mighty swirl of wind, a flash of lightning, and a crack of thunder. In the magic tree house, Morgan Le Fay and Benjamin Franklin were gone. Jack and Annie stared up at the top of the oak tree for a long moment. Then they both sighed and started walking through the woods. Remember in Morgan's rhyme, Morgan said, everyday wonders will show Ben the way? At first I thought she meant modern inventions. Me too, said Jack, but those things just seemed to scare Ben. Right, said Annie. So then I thought, what if we just show him the public library? He wouldn't be afraid of that. Yeah, especially since he started the very first public library. And he got to see how everyone's allowed to go in there and borrow books and use computers. Yeah, and get tons of information, said Annie, like how cars work. Yeah, and how planes and electricity work. Annie stopped walking. So let's go back, she said. And there is Morgan and Ben Franklin waving bye out of the treehouse. Go back where? Said Jack. There. Now? Now. Why not? So without another word, Jack and Annie started running through the summer heat, and they headed back to the Frog Creek Library. And there they go. They're going to the library to check out books and learn some new information about all different things. So that is the end of chapter 32. Looks like Jack and Annie completed their mission, and Ben Franklin's going to go sign the Constitution. So I hope you enjoyed that book. We've got one more Magic Treehouse book that we'll read next week. Believe it or not, friends, next week is the last week of first grade, which makes me very sad. But I can't wait to read our next book together. And I hope you have a great day. Happy Friday. Love you, friends. Talk to you later. Bye.